We ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so one of our friends was asking a lot of questions about how we make our chicken parmesan, which isn't anything terribly special, by the way. But we are making this video for her to show you how we do it. And the first thing we do is to brine our chicken. I have here, because our kids love chicken parmesan, I have here about 6 half breasts of chicken that we're going to brine. And they take about an hour to brine. And here's how I do it. I take a half-gallon pitcher. Put a few handfuls of ice in there just to cool the water down quickly. And because I don't have that much chicken, I'm only going to do about a quart of brine over it. So I fill the half gallon up to about the quart line. Good. And these are just approximate measurements. And then we use kosher salt. And the ratio for the brine that I use is a cup of kosher salt to a gallon of water. And thus for a quart or a quarter gallon of water, I'm going to use a quarter cup of kosher salt. This is a very simple brine. You can also, I know you've probably seen brines on television that incorporate apple cider or sugar. And that's especially good, by the way, for turkeys. This is just because we're doing a savory dish and we just want the meat to have a little more flavor to it. And by the way, you'll really taste the difference. It'll be much less bland. Stir that up to dissolve. Now the brine accomplishes 2 things. First, the brine pulls some of that salt into the meat, which gives it a little more of a seasoned flavor. What it also does is it changes some of the cellular structure to limit, or at least prevent the meat from drying out too quickly when you saute it. And this meat will be sauteed. Alright, so all the salt's dissolved. Put it in the bowl. Make sure that all the pieces are free to move in there so the salt gets in there. And we're going to leave this chicken in here for a minimum of 1 hour and a maximum of about 3 hours. But about 1 hour should do it, so it's not that onerous to do. And you can do this brine with pork also, which we found, pork chops, and also turkey, most poultry. I've heard people have done it with shrimp as well, but I have not tried that. But it really does make a huge difference for pork, which takes to salt very well, and to chicken and turkey. Stand by for step 2. While we're waiting for the chicken to brine, I'm going to make the sauce, which we'll use on the chicken parmesan, and we'll also use it in the associated pasta we're going to be serving with it. This is a very simple sauce, no magic to it at all, but just wanted to get it out there so that our friend can use it or make modifications to it as she likes. I've just got, this is about a 2-quart pan that is heating up. I'm going to throw in some extra virgin olive oil just to get it going and heat it up. A pinch of salt, probably about half a teaspoon of kosher salt. This is probably about a cup of onions that I've chopped up. I like onions. I like a sauce that's got a little more onion than most people, so you can adjust your onions how you like. And we're just going to let these saute, turn it down to about medium high, and let these saute till they're translucent. And that'll take about 5 or 8 minutes. Okay, our onions are almost finished sauteing. They are translucent, but not brown. Some of those might be brown, but that's just because I lost a little focus. With 3 kids in the house. I am just peeling some garlic here. These are rather small cloves, and I like garlic in my sauce. But I'll probably, add some garlic here to the sauteing onions. Turn this down a little bit. I'm going to use a garlic press just because it's convenient, although you can add just chopped garlic rather than pressed garlic. And just stir that in, let that bloom a little bit. And while we're waiting for that to saute up, here is the can of tomatoes I'm going to use. I just used 1 can of these for this particular recipe. These are Cento brand. I like this brand, and I found it all the way up and down the East Coast. But I like this brand because it's a little thicker in consistency than some of the other ones. So it provides a slightly more chunky sauce, and frankly, I don't need to put any tomato paste in the base sauce. So that's just one less step, one less thing to remember at the grocery store. This Cento stuff's a little more expensive, but only by 50 cents more a can or so than, say, Hunt's. Okay, so we stir that in, and I love the way the onions give it some real body and thickness. And the last 2 pieces are some oregano and some basil. And again, we're not, ow, hot. We're not measuring here, so that's probably about a tablespoon of oregano. And then a tablespoon of basil. Just eyeball it. A few grinds of fresh black pepper.
They all look the same.
Well, we stir that in. If you want to add a bay leaf, you can. I just don't have any handy right now. I don't find bay gives enough flavor to this, especially with all the other flavors competing against it, to really make it worthwhile. But you can do that. What else do we need? We've already put some salt in it, but you'll want to taste it for proper salt at the after it's set on the stovetop. And we're just going to put this on the stovetop on low and let it slowly bubble. It doesn't need to reduce at all. It just needs to all come into all the flavors just need to bloom in there a little bit. So I'll probably let it just sit there for an hour on low, but you could do for less than an hour or for longer. It's not going to make a huge deal because cooking's meant to be fun. And in a second, we'll get to the chicken. Okay, so I have pulled the chicken out of the brine and dried each of the breasts. And again, there are 6 half breasts here. And I'm going to slice each of these in half. Just makes it easier to manage and a little easier to pound out as well. And you'll notice too that I'm going down on a bias when I slice. So I'm going down at an angle. And that also makes it easier to pound out. And we are going to pound these down so that they get into approximately sort of half-inch thick pieces. And what I've got is a piece of saran wrap-y kind of stuff there, and I'm placing these on. Put another piece of wrap on top just to keep my meat tenderizer from getting all chickeny. And then I'm just going to pound these out. just trying to get them approximately, you know, half to a quarter of an inch thick. It's much more important just to make sure they're uniform in thickness. Sometimes those end pieces, the thickest part, are a little tougher to bang down. You'll notice, by the way, I'm using the flat side of my meat tenderizer and not the toothed side. You don't need the teeth, and it can tear holes in the meat. After we tenderize, the next step will be to dredge these in breadcrumbs. Okay, I've pounded out all of my chicken, and I've left out one step for you, which is I did dredge each piece of that chicken that I've pounded in just some regular old flour. I have an egg wash here. This is 2 eggs and probably a quarter of a cup to half a cup of milk that I beat. I have some breadcrumbs here. These are just Progresso Italian style breadcrumbs. They seem to work pretty well. And all I'm going to do is dredge, or first put the flour coated cutlet in there, and then get some breadcrumbs on it and set it aside. And this is just purely just a dredging exercise, and I'll do this for each of the cutlets. And then what I'll do, and this is important, is I'll put this into the fridge for about 10 minutes, a minimum of 10 minutes. What that does is it really allows the eggs, which act as almost like Elmer's glue, it allows them to that glue to set up, and it holds the coating on much better than had we put it right into the saute pan. So I'll finish doing the rest of these cutlets, and when I come back, we will start sauteing. So I've let this chicken rest for about 10 or 20 minutes in the fridge. So it has been dredged in breadcrumbs, Italian breadcrumbs. Don't be intimidated by this big bottle. It just happened to be what was around because my little one was. But I'm going to put this in a saute pan. That's been preheated, and we're going to saute up these cutlets. It's important to note that because we're going to be putting the cutlets back in the... Poor dog is getting crazy.
She wants it so bad.
Because we're going to be putting these cutlets back in the oven to finish when we put the sauce and mozzarella cheese on, that we're not so worried about cooking it through right now, although we would be essentially cooking it through, but rather we want to make sure that the crust is appropriate. And when you're doing this, we don't want to crowd the pan. So you're seeing, in this case, I'm just doing 3 cutlets at a time. I'm going to put this thing on, the timer on for 2 minutes. And what you're looking for is a nice brown crust on both sides, and then we're going to set it aside on this cookie sheet. So it's been sauteing. I'm going to turn these around for just a minute so they cook evenly. And that's one issue I'm dealing with this particular stovetop and this pan. So I want to maybe... I just turn the heat down a little bit because I think I may have been overdoing it.
That looks good.
It does look good.
Poor dog.
I'm going to give it another 30 seconds on this side, and I'm going to flip it over just so you can see what I kind of like as far as the finish. And the second side is going to be cooking a lot more quickly. Let's see how these look. That looks great. So you see how it's brown? This one's getting a little darker here. They're all within the acceptable range. And one of the keys here too is to make sure you've got enough oil. You can't go skimping on the oil because you are essentially frying these cutlets rather than just simply sautéing. And you need the oil in there to make sure that the cutlets get properly browned.
Got it.
So when I come back, I will. I'm going to lay these out on the cookie sheet when they're finished, and when I come back, I'll show you how I typically hit them with the sauce and with the mozzarella cheese. Maddie, why don't you come over here and see how we've done with the meat? So this is sort of how it looks when the meat's been sautéed, which is just a French word for fry. And I am going to basically hit each of these pieces with some of the sauce that we made, except for the one that goes to my daughter who's taking the pictures because she doesn't like sauce.
Special sauce.
Thank you, William Miller.
That's me.
Well, shut up. And so basically we're just going to spread the sauce out, just like you would a pizza. And that you can see how, because it's so chunky, it helps to adhere a little better to the meat. I'll just start with, and I'll just show you how I do this cheese is a fresh mozzarella, but you can use any kind of mozzarella cheese. I prefer the whole milk mozzarellas because they melt a lot better than skim milk or part skim milk mozzarellas. But I know some people are worried about that. So I'm going to just adhere this cheese to our meat, and then I'm going to pop it into a 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes. And you're going to want to check to see the cheese is melted. And as an extra little benefit, you can turn the broiler on in the last couple of minutes, and that will brown the tops of some of the cheese. And some people like that. I certainly do. And then I just serve this with pasta with the remainder of the sauce ladle on it. I'll show you what the finished product looks like when I pull it out of the oven. Thanks. And here's the finished product right out of the oven. We did hit it. It was probably in the oven at 400 for about 15 minutes. And then we did hit it under the broiler for a couple just to get that little crispiness on top. And we'll let it rest for the cheese to set up a little more. And because Mom does not like super hot chicken. But I think that's a relatively successful chicken parmesan evening. And then these three down here are for my daughter who prefers her chicken a little on the plain side. And then we'll serve that with angel hair pasta tossed with the balance of the sauce. And some salad. Thanks very much.
Hi.
What is your favorite food in the world?
Chicken Parmesan.
And who do you think makes the best chicken parmesan?
My dad, Jeff.
And how does this particular batch look?
Good. Really, really good.
And do you like it with all the cheese on it?
Yep.
And where it melts and gets all gooey?
Uh-huh.
And
That's
why?
the part I really like about it.
Who's this next to you?
My dog, Victory.
And what kind of dog is she?
A Swiss Mountain Dog.
Yeah. She's a pretty good kid today, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, well, say anything else you have to say about the food tonight?
Well, I would like to say something about my dog. She's 14 in dog years and only 2 in people years. But the food looks really good, and I hope it's gonna be really good. So